然后全部放这边就是做工作人员，不然
你可以来调一下。我是这，它现在上面会出现那个电脑的手绢。
对，这个
就是 OK 了是吧？都 OK 了 ，ready 了 ，OK。行，那你就推个直播就可以了。
稍等一下，那个 Jessie 会宣传一下。
怎么样？有什么问题吗？
没事，我把刚才那段下线了。现在重新开始，我先把声音卡了。
哎，你知道你下周写东西？对对对，
我知道，但是周一不要安排我，
周一不要安排。
我从周二开始，我周二、周四。
你周一有事？
对，我周一有一个别的事。
哎，你们两个现在是都在家里是吗？还是会去你工作的？
是，我会过去，
我都会去，都会过去的。
对。
那个工作贵吗
？400多吧。对。
你说嘛？你周一见。
麻烦再看一下，我刚才那个streaming停了，然后现在重新开了一个，但是现在这个我还没放声音，因为现在周围都是一些杂声，所以你先看看有没有什么问题吧，包括链接有没有问题。
其实我问你排周二了。啊？我现在就要去上 ARM Tech。
在哪儿？在3号线。
就在这儿。ARM 的周二。ARM Tech 不知道 ARM 发布什么东西。今天 ARM 不是很多的。
你在那儿干嘛？
我稍微前面那个是很简单，它有这个啊，在前面。
不用再管这个。
哦，这个是吧
It's a great thing.
不用再想了。检票人都就位了吗？
检票的人查好了没？
查好了就弄好了。
每个门保证治好2个人。
每个人给发一个。
3个人。
对，每个人给他们检票的时候给他们查一下。你这个 OK 吗？可以。还有。最后一点。
你可以先把那个先。然后。
已经对了，已经讲了。日记下好了吗？啊，下好了，好。
那你不考虑跟我讲一下？
我考虑跟我讲，我把手机放这儿。你跟我过来。然后就是一会儿，就是后面2个是讲这个完全是后面2个是同学进，然后。我们也干过。
不是很清楚吗？
不是很清楚吗？因为我是觉得人上去会对焦的呀，其实。
他这儿有。
你们几个是干什么？哪些是检票的？你们检票现在可以用吗？
我要这个搞这个。
这2维码是提问的吗？
提问的。
啊，这个你扫一下就可以。对。这挺别致的。
检测是5题。还有谁是检票？2边配备1个，就是这边对他有一个同学跟着他，还有一个同学在外面的，
就站这个门口还是在
那个门口？
再往外面？
没有，就那个门口，就等会会有一个同学他在那拿2维码，你跟他说你是检票就行。好 ，OK， 行。
人家那玩意儿跑不了。
对，现在在朋友做的那样。
就是做 BD 啊。
谁啊？
对。
德州。
是在。
怎么了？
没有，我问
他现在在这边吗？
他不在，他在国内。
我想他的，就问问
他。受不了你。你跟他合作会很多吗？会吧。
也不用很多。
经常见，咱经常见。
为什么呢？
他帅啊。他女朋友在这儿，我记得。他女朋友不是还在3番吗？
你快要去接李老师，跟我说一声。
没回。
然后新锐到时候会在这一片接待他。
OK， 他在那边那儿是。
对，在41号，就是他会在41号那个。
所以他方面还是蛮熟。 问一下。
没有。
I see。
他说多少钱啊？
因为2个人过来。
那今天如果要买是开4位吗？
今天没有说买。
今天没有说买啊？不给搞。OK。
这件事。
他们挺谨慎的，挺谨慎的。
是，也对。因为他说他10点钟左右过来，我再问一下他。马上就已经9点50。
考虑个弄本看看，他这么一天天盯着，我看看他到底书里面写什么东西。
我看了。
你看过吗？
看了。
怎么样？真的？
这本书不是他写的。
我知道英文不是他写的。英文不是他写的，英文是叫那个的，Matt 写的。
啊，对 ，Matt 是 Matt。你认识 Matt 吗？
我认识。他挺有意思的。我以为是他写的，Matt 帮他改，就其实整个英文版都是Matt写的。
我觉得是。
哎，
对，你是。可是他没时间吧？我一会儿再跟你说。写本书挺费时间。而且那个 Matt 也不懂中文啊。
谁说的？Matt 中文可好了。
这样那有可能，就反正就是整个 structure 可能。
Matt 正宗北京口儿。
真的。
北京口，他中文可好了。
我以为 Matt
难怪 Matt 知道量子。That makes sense。上次我跟他聊，他说你做什么呢？我说我做人工智能媒体。然后我知道量子，我说你怎么知道量子的？他一想，他因为他跟李开复关系好嘛，那肯定得知道量子。挺有意思。他以前是那个Huffington Post 的驻华记者，他挺有意思的。
你有他微信吗？
我有他微信，我给忘了。
所以他是在那边带孩子过来的。真的吗？
怎么了？这样巧手一点。
可以帮一下号小姐。
雪烧。不慌听啊。我哎。
没事是有时候。
因为有人带胶带的。
希望你到时候是你也在搬椅子那个。
不在。
你也来。
行吧。
我看一下有4个人。你看你在不在？你明明在，你在时候就看一下。
真的假的？那行，反正不重要，对不对？反正我都要搬。
10点之后没来人。
那个，你杨伦、黄潇，然后继续，然后，我们一般可以用就是来的大概就是配置是这样，基本上15分钟就 check 完了。
你说这个活动吗？
这样。
DTalk 吗？
这样子吗？
这个Alex 他比较了解，
是吗？这样。
我们一般可能都是说10点半到10点的话，一般10点15，20能到。
对，就最后几分钟吧。 分钟。但是你让上次郭台铭的就好好多。
郭台铭那次是跟你说是有政治因素在里面，我跟你说有个什么情况？花园跟我说，我给郭台铭上书请愿。
请愿？
我怎么知道请愿？他不是要在台湾那边那个什么，然后就是有人给他递东西，就是有这种乱七八糟人在这里，所以就然后就然后他说还是就收点请愿收这么多，那我也不知道那个。开始扮演的就会比赛11点半结束，然后待会儿一晚上看那次是因为太尴尬了。那次是不是一开始就好多人都用那个好？
是吗？
就上次那次不是就是郭台铭活动还没开始之前就好多人。
对，人非常多，而且非常早。
对，而且特别早，对，反正就那次也是一场买。
Closest parking 在哪里？你知道？就是那个我们的 park 吗？
我猜是吧？Visit Center， 你刚才说 Visit Center。Visit
Center
对 ，Stanford Visit Center。
对他，我把票给他了，对不对？
啊。
你让他进来直接刷票就好了，他有我的票，然后让他坐第一排，就坐我这个位置好了。剩下的都我把掉，不给票。他这中文也好吗？
他看得懂，好像看得懂一点。他以前和给那个做的，那个李嘉诚的儿子叫什么来着？
李泽楷。
啊，就跟李泽楷做事，做过一段时间。
啊，那他现在怎么死？
啊？
他现在在哪？
现在回《纽约时报》了吧？
啊，就在《纽约时报》是吧？
他以前是《纽约时报》的。
现在又回《纽约时报》。
现在又回《纽约时报》。
他是跟李老师认识是吧？
这个圈子里面，我猜应该认识，我不太清楚了。对。
没多长时间了。10点半开始，10点讲40分钟，然后
20分钟的 Q&A。
对，就没了。
我们来的早了点。
早了点。
你不是太自制的。
对啊，我主要怕出问题，比较顺，所以要不然挺麻烦的。
对，今天还挺顺利的。
对。
你看论文有什么诀窍吗？或者什么窍门，或者有什么方法论？
直接看 abstract， 然后就我觉得就够了。
你公式看懂了？
公式不看，看过。包括我之前研究生的时候，那公式不是一个方向的，你就是一个专业的，不是一个方向的都感觉很难看。
我一般看完 introduction 之后就看不懂。
introduction 就回顾一下，包括历史的这个东西，讲一讲怎么这个严格，历史严格。我觉得 abstract 挺好的。
abstract 基本上就清楚了。我看 abstract 看 conclusion， 基本上这文章讲什么这知道了。
对，知道。现在这些就是感觉就知道一个大概什么的方法的改进，或者一个什么解决什么问题的新方法。这个我刚才看他那个回复第一句，我觉得学得挺清楚的。
哪句？
就刚才 Reddit 上那个回复。那个他不是说这个什么 pretty simple， 就这一句 the basic idea is very simple。这个我觉得是，你就可以翻译一下，我觉得就能明白。虽然这里面具体的那些 term 我也不懂。
但其实我一直有个问题想问，就是说，深度学习模型当训练完之后，它的 inferencing 嘛，但是不是很多的人都说，就是比如说举个例子，你的iPhone 10在不停地扫描你的脸的时候，收集的数据越多，它可能越精确。但是我觉得这个我无法理解，因为它这个不是已经训练好了吗？它训练好是怎么再精确？
它可能
难道说是收集你的数据之后，在后台会更新，
会传到云端吗？
传到云端，它后来再训练吗？
对，有的时候对会再训练。因为
其实
去加就行了，去加一个。
因为其实 inferencing 这个阶段它是不会再
对不训练的，
它是不会再训练，它不会再提高它的数据点。对，
但是因为
它这个东西它其实它并不会实时的去更新，
它不会实时的更新，
可能阶段性的说。
但是你下一次用之前就更新了，你这边用完，我这个数据我可以反馈过去，就比如说。它
后台再更新吗？
更新，但是对你这次 inference 是没用的，但是对你下次是有用的。
就是你的意思是说，我这一次识别跟下次识别中间这个间隔，它的后台的模型就会在训练更新吗？
对，这很快的，就它可能就再加一个，只跑一个叫 intense 就行了，只跑一个 case 就行，不用全部做一遍训练。
是这样的，对，
我觉得应该都是这样。
它的云端部署的那个模型在训练完之后，你把
都可以实时训练，
都可以实时训练。
对，而且它不是说每次都要全部 retrain 重复，
就只要再加几个数据就加进去，
你就把这个数据集反馈给收集起来。你可能本来是100万的数据，你加个1，就是然后
他就把那个1的数据跑一遍就可以了，然后直接反馈过来。
对，但是对你这次可能已经没帮助了，但是对你下一次是有帮助的。
所以其实网络上面的这些模型，它其实是后台它是会不断的收集你的数据。
那我觉得还得看公司有没有这些 infrastructure，有的公司如果没有的话，就可能它就是一个定死的了，可能就不会再有任何的 optimization。有像苹果这种，我估计它会有吧。然后，所以
我一个人
就会那个好一些。
我感觉就是它这个新的，它这个新的这个东西，讲道理其实就堆。我发现真的现在的模型，只要它想拿到好的性能，就是堆。你把模型做大就可以了。Big Game 那个是多大？它那个模型多大？你看这个它也是，它怎么提升的？它相比于原来那个 Transformer， 它是 double 了它的整个的 size。整个的所有的东西全部打破了一遍。参数马上打破了3遍。
110兆的 parameter，
马上到340。
牛逼！光参数340兆。我那参数都是不到1K。之前
所以它其实相当于就是说，
那得多少层啊？这玩意儿？
你自己看它1024层，hidden layers。所以它整个的它早用release，就是它其实就是说它能够完全的用 GPU 就把这个东西全部算出来，在限定的时间里。
还挺牛逼的，340兆的参数，这能存多少啊？层太多。
真的就是往上堆，真鸡巴有钱。对，所以那种东西以后这个模型怎么压缩啊？但是我觉得总有办法压缩，先把性能做上去。
这次就宣传一波。
或者是知乎上有个人点评过这个文章。
你们两个人有没有谁领过票？你们两个有没有领过票过？都没有领过票。
没有。
你有领过票吗？
没有。 是不是你摸？我们俩没理解。我也没理解。
不管，我没领票就没了。
他给定性地 reset 了。对啊，所以我就在想，这个学术界会不会出现一个问题，就是说，其实你也在做相同的工作，然后其实你可能，比如说你的那个数据集上面你也提升了，但突然之间一篇论文出来，所有都是白费了。
很正常，很正常。而且这不是你这个学术界，你比如说，我材料里面有一个变化，材料领域有一个小小的变化，石油行业不行，就跨学科的打击。我从别的行业找到一个解决方式。所以别说这种我不知道，别说这种学科内的这种竞争太正常了。做了5年，人家出来一个完全是另一个角度，完全是新的，或者就是
还好，3000块钱跑一次。他是用那个 GPU 跑。
一会儿，对，一会儿开始咱俩说话就不要说话了，开始以后，然后一会儿我跟你说，现在是没有的。
你看看，64个 GPU， 他妈花5万跑一次。
用 GPU 的话比较便宜吗？
这 GPU 根本跑不了，感觉。你说 A1 只需要 A100 个 GPU， 这怎么跑？
林州汉。
这跟我说什么 Jacob 什么背景啊？这
说
我他妈都是大牛！以前 Microsoft 是 Principal 呀，像这些。马里兰 CS 也很好过。
可能也是工科强项吧。
对。
马里兰帕克。都是单挑这个选手，solo 选手，
感觉后面几个作者都没什么用，就一个人就搞定
solo 型。
核战。
没有。HFR 我给他拿着吧。
那可以坐哪？
不知道，应该在后面。
知道1、2、4座全是微软。
之前他们的组出来。新人在知乎怎么样？这个人是谁？这人是谁？
谷歌的，谷歌对，但是我之前也不知道这个。反正从这个事儿啊，我都说这是大牛。
都是大牛。没有。
很奇怪，谷歌的大牛，亚裔的大牛，基本上都是来自越南的，特别怪。谷歌的 Hotler 越南，这一看名字就他妈是越南。
对。他上一次不是也是那个 Waymo 那个。哦，我认识一个哥们儿正在面 Waymo， 好牛逼。
Waymo 怎么样？难不难？
我没问他，他说有 offer， 没有 offer， 正在面。哦，感觉他好牛逼。
能进 Waymo 也是屌的不行了。
是啊。
这是遮蔽模型。还没做满。
比较限制他的那个注册嘛。灿灿是身体不好，
他好像前段时间肚子反正不舒服，好像是肾出什么问题。
哇塞！
他反正也好像是在国内，老板是不是在国内网太嗨了，不知道什么情况。反正他回国之前就做了个小手术。
哦，这样啊。
然后呢，回国之后呢，现在回了加拿大呢，前段时间反正又出了什么问题。然 然后他去检查了身体，说他好像心脏这边出了什么问题，什么养一养的，大概这意思。
然后那 Harry 你经常不在吗？这两个人
Harry 是工作状态不对，
是吗？
转part time现在暂时。
是吗？
是转1个月。这样他好像你没看到，就他经常被老板骂。就他最近就是你mute吧？
我没有呢，我都没有。
反正就是好像说他失恋了，感情状态不是很好，好像是这个状态。然后所以就是老板提着说让他先
调整一下，
好像是这样，这是我听到的消息。
OK， 我这怎么经常不在？经常
现在从下午就过来。
Moss 还有Wagner 田哥在。
现在
还有 Kevin 比较
Kevin 回国了，
就是这4个人比较稳。然后老板有时候不在。那个谁呢？那个 Megan。
那个回北大了呀？
是啊，但是他算是现在一帮他 contract 吗？还是怎么着？
对，他就是他保着他的 title 不拿钱。
OK。
然后他现在就管 translate 的这个 team。
OK。
拿不拿钱我也不知道。
明白。
然后他们现在他们那个部门就是反正每周会给我1到2篇他们的翻译的稿子。
有一些 part time 还是怎么着？
对 part time 就要婷婷这种。但是稿子有好有坏吧。
那
婷婷稿子我学习，婷婷的稿子写的，可以看看。
婷婷是 postdoc 啊，
是吗？真的？这么牛逼的？他这技术的文章翻译的，我觉得很 solid。
是吗？好像是 postdoc， 反正他是想走那种想去高校当老师了，因为他之前给我发过他的 resume。
这么牛逼！这操！哎呦我操！我感觉我什么时候得去提升一下我的学历？那本科在技师机混不下去了呀。
都是招呼。但是我不知道婷婷，可能暂时还在找吧，找这种教学。这是 Sound Max。
Sound Max
就是。Deep Learning， 你做完，你用那个激活函数做完以后，再把那个激活函数做出来的结果用 Softmax 转成概率嘛，我的理解。就是最后能算出来。你比如说你之前做那种。
在卷积里面的吗？
不是，它是一个独立的，这不算是。它这个方法有点像卷积，你看这乘法有点像卷积，但是它是一个更独立的一个步骤。它不是在那个 CNN 和 RNN 里面，它是。我前2天正在蚂蚁金服。
蚂蚁金服也没。
对啊。Data mining， 做数据挖掘。
怎么样？
我也不知道。你这包需要吗？
你就放那吧，我这个。
这要到了。
但是，比较纠结。
什么纠结？
现在前3一共4轮嘛，我前3轮都还挺顺利的，就感觉没这边要求高。但是配什么的也还可以，但是你这要去了就去杭州了。
回国了？
所以我不知道，我先面了再说。面了做他们组的流量的，就是挖掘吧，用machine learning来把这个优化。做支付宝这个。
配怎么样
？30多吧。
还挺好。而且回国30多可以。
好。但是比较纠结，但是还没先拿到这个说，现在没说死。应该还有一轮就是比较 general 的。所以。
这基本上感觉是定了这样还是？
我觉得
差不多。
不好，再看国内的套路真不好。
是啊。
国内套路你现在说没就没了。就包括面试，你就觉得不是很正规，就是大家都很随意问的。
对。
就是全是技术，全是问的技术，但是就是随便来那种感觉。 随便跟你聊，你就跟他扯句不就完了，然后给你问几个具体的问题。
要写后的吗？
要写也写了，也都搞定了。看看吧，到时候真有了我自己再考虑。这个还挺重大的事情。
挺好，真好事儿。我在想想呗，到底这个相当于你要回市了。
对啊，所以挺重要的。但是现在没拿offer都是零，现在都是零，啥都没有。主要这岗位做的我还挺喜欢的吧，全是研究这些 modeling 什么的。
这挺玩的。
像录的一样，我觉得你没事吧？你见过吗？你见过吗？
照片见过，真人没见过。可以，李开复在国内也是可以的。
好使。
这个充电器我这儿，到时候给你。哦，对，是那个，对，我没问住。
对，你先问，不着急，或者你直接拿回去就行，直接拿回去，到时候那个什么再给我。行，不用再给我。谢谢啦，没事没事，
再让他多开几个，把1年份吃饭得了。
这玩意儿慢慢全发了，人家回国了，慢慢后台运作一下，回复是吧？
对。他哪天真做出来了，我就不干了，等他养我算了。现在我养他。
可以，坚持一下。我觉得这个东西得定时定点，然后
每周3天每周一次
啊，对，定时定点这种 subscribe 一下就会很好。
对。做满了吗？
没有。
那你就。
其实我们可以，如果这样的话，其实可以更多的做。
哎，没事。
那个人来了吗？
快点，还没来呢。李老师到了对吧？我觉得人没有很多。
对啊。
我感觉郭台铭那次人还多一点。
我这不太人那种。
郭台铭那次人多啊，
人真多，门口拦多少？
报名多吗？
多，不过郭台铭那个座位没多。
我说这个报名多少多？
这没过来手。 但是好像限票了吧？应该跟着票来的。
限票，这是限什么票呀？没明白。啊，他助理还是他女儿在哄他。不好意思，这边有个位置。
12个吧。
但是有点太憋。
反正也没人。
快来就喝。
对，没到。
快在那边。
他听，我估计他也知道。
他是他谁呀？
啊？
说是他谁呀？助理女孩，他女儿长得看看。
哎，我做这个。
好像不像。哦，这他女儿啊？是不是？这他老婆吧？是不是？啊？
联名啊？
是吧？看着像。人家说我的女儿，你们谁混蛋？看着我。
我就不出去了。
不是。啊，助理说，怎么我以为八卦记者的天性好吗？真是。记者还不八卦，该怎么办？那快点来做吗？快点来做，随便做。
考虑好讨论。
如果你就做出来，你就做，你就做。快来，让他随便走。说你晚了，你就自己单点吃。然后实际上随便走，还多少位置？
快点出一个，能找到。
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yiqing Ding. I'm the co-president of the Association of Chinese Students and Scholars at Stanford. I'm so pleased to welcome all of you this morning and have the chance to introduce our guest speaker today. Dr. Li is the chairman and CEO of Sinovation Ventures and the president of Sinovation Ventures AI Institute. Prior to founding Sinovation in 2009, he was the president of Google China, and before that, he held executive positions at Microsoft and Apple. In the field of AI, Dr. Li built one of the first game-playing programs to be a world champion. Dr. Li also founded Microsoft Research China, which was named as the hottest research lab by MIT Technology Review. While with Apple, Dr. Li led AI projects in speech and natural language processing. Besides that, he also had US patents and more than 100 journals and conference papers. Altogether, Dr. Li has been in artificial intelligence research, development, and investment for more than 30 years. Finally, he's also a very fascinating person, and we're all in for a treat today. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Kai-Fu Lee.
Thank you very much. Hear me okay? All right. So I know that I'm not very well known here, so I'm going to ask someone much more well known to introduce me again, okay? Here we go.
Great thing to build a better world with artificial intelligence.
And just wait a sec.
人工智能正在改变世界。
So that is the capability of deep learning. That was not President Trump talking. That was deep learning talking. Having learned all of President Trump's speech and is able to not only synthesize his speech in English but also Chinese. And that both shows you the power of deep learning and also shows you the power of Chinese R&D, because this was done by a Chinese company called iFlyTech. So that's the base technology that is disruptive, and I think most of you are probably familiar with it. For those who might not be, AI has been a field that I've been fortunate to be a part of for the last 38 years, since my sophomore year in college. And over the 62 years of the history of AI, there has been one breakthrough, and that is deep learning. And deep learning continues to build great things as a base technology, much like electricity. So the way that deep learning works is you take a huge amount of data within one single domain, you feed it in, and it's able to make superhuman judgments. So the limitations are that it's data-driven, and that there's a mathematical algorithm with thousands of layers and potentially hundreds of millions of parameters that are trained like a black box, and it learns to make better decisions than people. So if you feed it Go games, then you have AlphaGo. If you feed it a lot of speech, then it recognizes speech. If you feed a lot of images, it recognizes faces and items using computer vision. If you feed it with purchases on Amazon, it can predict what you might buy. If you feed it with clicks on newsfeed, then it knows what you might want to read on Facebook. So that one single technology has fueled multiple waves that are happening simultaneously. So I want to tell you about the opportunities that deep learning can bring about. At the very first level, deep learning is of course most suitable for internet AI. That is, you take a large amount of data, and in any internet domain, I gave you the examples of Amazon before. For those of you who are Chinese, you must use a product called Meitu. Maybe. Only ladies smile, but I actually know the data that a lot of men use it too. So it's a for those of you who are not Chinese, it's a selfie beautifier. You take a selfie, make yourself look better than you actually do. And so that is an AI algorithm because it has 1.2 billion users. And it's continuing to, is there a problem?
Yeah, you muted your mic.
No, I think you told me it was turned on. Hello? Yes. All right, so I guess none of you heard anything to now. So we'll start over from the beginning. Okay, so Meitu is trained on data, right? So have you noticed in the last 5 years, you've become a lot more beautiful? Seriously, 5 years ago, sometimes you would have to go tweak, right? 修图, right? Yeah. And then more recently, the new version, you more or less accept it. So much so, you use the beauty camera directly, right? So that you trust the algorithm. So what happened? So over the last 5 years, it accumulated 1.2 billion people using these selfies hundreds of times per year, and it has training data. And the training data is labeled by all of you. Do you remember labeling from Meitu? What's your label? Your label was when you take a selfie, what are the next things you might do? You might save it or share it on social media, right? That's saying, good job, do more like that, right? You might delete it or fix it up some more. That's telling it, don't do more like that. So it's just like on Amazon. When you go to a page and buy or not buy, it's sending Amazon signals to learn more what you might buy. You're sending Meitu signals on how to beautify for you and people like you. So what does it mean for people like you? Well, in the deep learning, it will put people in categories. It may be categorized by age, by complexion, by gender, by region, and so on and so forth. And it will use what other people like you have liked to give you what it thinks you will like, the same as other internet companies. So I won't give all the examples. You can see all the internet companies naturally become AI giants because they uniquely have a phenomenal amount of data, and then with some sort of auto-labeling can turn it into intelligence. So it's no wonder the 7 greatest AI companies in the world are all internet companies, because internet plus deep learning were the two magical things that happened in the last 10 years. Internet generated tons of data. Deep learning is an algorithm that's hungry for data. The more data, the better it works. And where do you have the most data? In the internet. Furthermore, internet businesses usually can turn data into AI, AI into money, right? So Amazon can push ads to you that will entice you to click. And Facebook can push news to you that will entice you to read. And the more you read, the more ad impressions. And the same with Meitu. The more you use it as a tool, the more likely you might click on buying something in the product. So the biggest AI companies are Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent. These are companies that have the most data, and therefore they have the virtuous cycle of more data allowing them to build better AI, allowing them to build better product, make more money, and then hire more scientists, buy more machines, collect even more data, and the loop continues. So they're all in the order of $500 billion or higher companies. But that is not all. Who else has data? Well, banks have data, insurance companies have data, hospitals have data, schools have data, and so on. So all of them can use data that was previously stored and viewed as archive or as legal requirements. You have a smart system. There's AI controlling the slides. So take bank as an example, right? A bank used to just store our transactions for the purpose of archiving. But suddenly, a bank can use that previous transactions to turn into intelligence and make more money off of you. It can take all the transactions from all the people and guess what you're most likely to buy, and therefore sell you those products either by phone calls, email, or top ad when you visit a bank website. So it can make more money that way. It can help you do asset allocation because it knows your level of risk tolerance and desire for your style of investment, whether it's aggressive or conservative. It can decide whether to make a loan to you or whether one of your credit card uses is likely to be fraudulent or not. So that's business AI. But I would point out, while banks will improve the way they do business with AI, there are also internet companies that will go into the bank's business, right? So, for example, Chinese mobile payment is now taking over and displacing credit cards. And another example I want to give is a Chinese loan application, and it really illustrates well what AI can do, and also why some of the questions people ask aren't so easily answered. So this is an example of an app that you download. And once you download it, you fill, just like if you go to a bank to apply for a loan, you will fill out a form with maybe 10 or 20 attributes. And then the loan officer will read it and decide whether to lend to you, let's say $1,000, okay? Not many banks give $1,000 loans, but let's say they did. Okay, the loan officer would spend a lot of time doing reviews, checking out your Equifax, and so on and so forth, and then maybe with a few hours of work, deciding to approve a loan with a processing fee. What's the correlate with an app? You download an app, and the app asks you the same 10 or 15 questions, and then within 1 second, the loan is zapped to your phone with no additional fees. So first think about the risks of doing that. So how many of you are willing to withdraw $1 million from your bank? I'll first get $1 million, and then how many of you are willing to take $1 million of your money, go outside Stanford Shopping Center, and the first 1,000 people you meet say, do you want $1,000? Make sure you pay me back. And what do you think the default rate is likely to be? Pretty high, right? So it's a very, very risky business. But yes, this app can manage to make it work because it not only takes those 10 or 15 attributes and feeds it into a giant deep learning network, it also uploads information from the phone. Before you panic about that, it's not uploading all the secret things that you have in your phone. It's basically uploading what Android and iOS would allow an app to upload. Okay, so the type of your phone, your contact list with your consent, and the apps you have installed, things like that. And it feeds all the things from your phone, along with the 10 or 15 things that you filled out on the form, to make a determination of whether to give you the loan or not. And if you're approved, then the $1,000 is sent to you directly. And so how bad do you think the default rate is, right? If you were to disperse this money in Stanford Shopping Center, probably the default rate would be, what, 50%, 70%? Well, for this app, the default rate was 3%. So how does it manage that? Because it's managed by learning from many people who pay back the loan and many people who don't pay back the loan, and using all their training data to decide what features would cause someone to be a loan repayer and what features would cause someone be correlated with someone who's a loan defaulter. So it turns out that it looks not at 10 or 15 attributes meant in your loan application, but 3,000 attributes with all kinds of information from your phone, starting from your name, how long it took you to type your name, your address, how long it took you to type your address. So a lot of subtlety that banks don't get, it gets. And then also your contact list, who's in it, do they match what you claim to be your dad and mom, do they match on the internet, to the extent you can find your dad and mom. The properties you own, does it match the address that's on your loan application? Here's the magic again. Okay, and it goes as far as the day of the month. Can somebody think of why the day of the month matters? Saturday. No, Saturday. Salary, absolutely, the payday, right. So if you're borrowing the money 3 days before payday, that's a very reasonable loan. It's called a payday loan. You need some money to basically come over to get paid. If it's 3 days after you get paid, that's not so good, because that means, why are you needing money again? You just got paid. So how does it know what day you get paid? It doesn't. It infers that from millions of data, and also based on where you live and when are people usually paid, what type of job you're likely to have, and for that kind of job, when you're likely to be paid. So it infers all those things. Day of the week, day of the month. Also, very bizarre things like your battery level is one of the features. So you might think that's crazy, but there must be some tiny correlation with people who keep letting their battery run out on their phone, with people who are just a tiny little bit less trustworthy. There's a correlation. So here's what AI can do. It can find all these little features, each of which is a little bit correlation, and it multiplies all of them together. And those of you who learn statistics, it decorrelates all the features, so the redundant features are removed. So no human can possibly do that. And that's how it gets to the 3% error rate. So hopefully this example gives you an idea that while banks and insurance companies will keep trying to add AI to their services, ultimately, many of the services, they might be eaten alive by a total disruption coming from a different area, because AI simply does this better. You can ask the question, what human can give you 3% default rate? No human can do that. What human can look at 3,000 features? No human can do that. Even if some human could, can they do it in 1 second? No. Right? Even if they did it in 1 second, you have to pay them. Well, you have to pay them. This is free software running on the cloud using AI. Of course, there's one trick, which is how did you get the training data? How do you get the training data to train? Well, VCs like us give money to lose, right? We give them $5 million and they lose it all to people who default. And then that's used as training data, then they build a better model. Then we give them another $20 million and they lose it all again. Then the default rate goes down to maybe 8%, then they break even. Then they raise another $100 million, then they don't lose money anymore. They become wildly profitable. So that is how an AI company is built. Hopefully that example is helpful to illustrate to you how that's done. Now going beyond that, there are perception AI, which adds eyes and eyes and ears to computer vision, to speech recognition. So Amazon Echo, Amazon Go are all both examples. But there's a lot more to it than that. You notice in immigration, a lot of recognition of who you say you are is now done by face recognition. That can actually be done without any latency or lag. In my company, we don't have badges. We open the doors with our faces. So that, and you don't have to stop. You just get off the elevator, keep walking. It tracks your face and use multiple images to doubly make sure you are who you say you are. Then it opens the door if you're an employee in the company, and it doesn't if you're not. So face recognition is only one aspect. There's gesture recognition. You can imagine installing this in a store. So customers who pick up the product, looks at it, and puts it down. You can say, that's like browsing to my page and not mine, right? Or if they bought, that's like mine. But furthermore, you can look at a product and look totally disgusted and put it down. Then that might be a negative indicator, which you don't have online. So suddenly, offline users, with the help of computer vision and sensors, suddenly have understanding of its customers as though they were online companies. And then you can have a basket where you can take a product, put in your basket, and it charges you automatically. Suddenly, cashiers are no longer needed. And once you know who's buying what product, your whole process of sales prediction, inventory management become all automated. So that's wave 3. That's through sensors, cameras, microphones. And then wave 4 is autonomous vehicles. But on top of that is also robotics. So this will become machines that can move and manipulate. So the ability to manipulate will allow you to build a robot that can inspect and maybe build some simple products, replacing workers on the assembly line. It can also have commercial applications. So a project, something like a dishwasher, right? I mean, today's dishwasher is not fully automatic. The human still has to remove all the chicken bones and napkins and do all, and then also rinse and put it in the machine. Imagine in the future, actually not so far in the future, we're invested in such a company in the Bay Area that's building a dishwashing robot. This is a big machine. Imagine after dinner, you just take off the whole tablecloth, dump everything in the machine, close the door and push clean, and all the piles of plates and bowls and forks and chopsticks all come out, and also everything that should be recycled are put in the proper bins, and all the junk is disposed of. So who wants one of these? So at the end of the lecture, I'll be taking orders. They are $300,000. How many still want to buy one? Well, but just wait, right? This is the way the fourth wave will work. Initially, the products will be very expensive. Only high-end restaurants that may have 6 dishwashers, each costing the restaurant $50,000. For them, that one-time spend will be paid back in a year, and after that, they can save $300,000 a year. So they'll be the first buyers. Then in a few years, the price will come down. In maybe 7 or 8 years, you can get your Home Pro version of that at maybe $2,000 or $3,000. So this definitely will happen, and prices will come down, and will begin at the highest end, going down the chain. Of course, autonomous vehicle is the biggest app of all of these. Autonomous vehicle is not just a button on a Tesla, but it changes the way people will transport themselves, and also change the way that logistics and delivery will be made. So in the future, you will be able to go from place A to place B first without traffic, without congestion. The car will be here when you need it. You don't have to buy the car. You save the money, and it will be clean, and there will be no rude driver because there are no drivers, and it will have no pollution, and it will be very efficient. There will be very little congestion. All the parking lots and garages will be gone and be reused for other things, and it will be safer. It may not be a lot safer from day one, but AI gets better with more data. So as the autonomous vehicle gets the miles, gets the practice, gets the sensors, gets the collection, it will get safer and safer over time. Once it's launched, maybe slightly better than humans. In 5 years, it will be a lot better. In 10 years, it will be, infinitely better than humans. To such a point that we will be the only danger to ourselves in the road. Because imagine these cars, they're going to be not only independently learning from all the users. Imagine each of you, let's say you have a car, you might accumulate, let's say, 30 miles per day of driving experience. So you're getting better as a driver with 30 miles per day. But an autonomous vehicle will eventually have 100 million vehicles throughout the world, right? So it's going to have 3 billion miles per day of training. And at that point, its ability to see all the long tail issues will be so much better than you and me. And also, the cars will talk to each other. So a car might say, I have a flat tire. Be careful, stay away from me. Or also they can negotiate to drive through very narrow roads, missing each other by 1 centimeter, where humans can't do that. At that point, we humans will no longer be allowed to drive. So if we think about this level of capability launching in 5-year time frame and improving itself, getting better over another 10 or 15 years, so we've got about 20 years to drive. Okay, so you're still very young, so enjoy your driving for the next 20 years. After that, if you want to drive, well, just like today, if you want to ride a horse, you can't ride it on the interstate highway. You have to go to a farm. And in 20 years, if you still love driving, you can go to a car farm. So all these things will really dramatically change the future of humanity. It will add so much value to the GDP, and it will displace many jobs along the way. So these are the two sides of a double-edged sword. As I mentioned, AI requires a lot of data. The more, the better. It requires a good tagging, works in a single domain. And depending on the complexity and the large amount of data, it may also need very expensive computation power or very powerful AI experts. But AI is becoming easier and easier to use for many applications, such as the wave 1 and 2. You may not need the super experts. You also may not need that much compute. Only when you have things like autonomous vehicle are, I think, 4 and 5 incredibly important. Let me talk for a moment about China and US, because there are really 2 themes in my book. Well, 3 themes. One is explaining what AI is. Second is US and China, who's ahead? And then third is, given US and China developing AI technologies, what will the future look like? What are the issues and challenges, and how do we deal with it? So we covered the first third. Now the second third is, well, who's ahead? Well, US is clearly ahead with the superstars, inventors of deep learning. Not only is US ahead in AI, US and Silicon Valley is the center of the universe. When you run into a serial entrepreneur or a VC, this is how they feel. And it's understandable because it's never been any other way. The whole world revolves around the Silicon Valley. I have a VC friend who is very famous in the Valley. I invite him to go to China. He says, I don't think so. I have enough. He says, I don't ever travel. I don't go to China. I don't go to the East Coast. I said, why is that? Are you afraid of air travel? He says, no. I just think there are enough deals in Silicon Valley to keep me busy. So that is another way of stating all the good companies are here. Why would I follow them? And I think that point of view is actually very dangerous since we're in Silicon Valley today, because that person, that famous VC, missed out on the miracle in the last 15 years. That miracle meant China, with this huge market, drew a lot of money, a lot of VCs, who invested a lot of entrepreneurs, who built a lot of great companies that developed a lot of great products that attracted more users. So the last 15 years, we saw China go from 100 million users to 800 million. We saw Chinese valuation go from 1/20th of the 1/20th of the US to 1-to-1 with the US. We also saw, relating back to the VC, top quartile returns in China for the VCs, dramatically beating the top quartile in Silicon Valley. It's natural, right? Because in one country, you grew 20 times faster than the other in internet valuation. So of course, the VC fund returns are phenomenal. So that actually caused the universe, and China actually has bifurcated, has moved on from the early day stereotype of many Silicon Valley people who might think China is just a copycat. And in fact, 15 years ago, China did begin as a copycat in a country which internet penetration was only 0.2%. Well, how do you really get money and launch a product when you first learn from the US who have done something? Copycat, I'm not talking about IP violation, I'm just talking about a great way to get started, the beginning point of your activity, right? Maybe similar to how Facebook learned from Snapchat. Okay? Things that also Silicon Valley frowns upon, but in fact there's nothing illegal about it. It gave a lot of business benefits to Facebook as a company. But anyway, China has rapidly gone in the last 10 years, going from copying from the US to building products that are actually better than products in the US. Not every case, but in many cases. For example, those of you who use WeChat and WhatsApp, surely you'll agree, which is better? WeChat, of course, right? Those of you still seriously better. And if you use Weibo and Twitter, which is better? Well, Twitter might be better. What was that? WeChat's better than that's fair, but the Weibo and Twitter are one to many forms of social, right? So certainly, Weibo is a lot better than Twitter in terms of its product. Probably not in the diversity of content. But we're talking products here. All right, and then Zhihu is our investment. It has surpassed Quora in its value and its monetization and in its diversity of content. I use both products. They're actually both very good products, but Zhihu has forged ahead with its new business models. And then in this area, I can't even explain. For those of you who are Chinese, who are new, who have been in China the last year, you probably recognize all of them. For those of you who are Chinese who've been here more than 5 years, I don't think you would know these. And these are really breakthrough products. They have no American roots. They're brand new innovation. It's very hard to explain any of them in any sort of detail. But for example, Kuaishou and Douyin are two products that are worth about 45, I would say, $45 billion. And what a single sentence describing them would be video-based social networking. Something that you don't have in the US yet. So China has already gone fast forward into new territories in things that aren't available in China. So as a result, the universe has been bifurcated into US part and China part. Some of you may have read Eric Schmidt's paper. There will be two internets. The first half of the paper I totally agree with. And it's about Chinese apps built this way that will not only be in China, but become successful in Southeast Asia, Middle East, Africa, developing countries, and the Belt Road Initiative. The second half of the paper, he talks more about governance and regulation. I think that's maybe a little speculative, but I think the app part is I absolutely agree with. And the Chinese companies build the apps very differently. American Silicon Valley companies like to go vision-driven, light, something like Instagram, right? 11 engineers, $1 billion. That's the everybody's dream. Very lightweight, don't mess with the ugly offline stuff. But the Chinese companies, they necessarily mess with the offline stuff because that is the only way to build a very, very strong, uncopyable product. I think going forward, business schools will be studying the Chinese business model because they are much more sustainable than the American model. I think in the US, for example, let's say take food delivery. You've got Yelp, OpenTable, Grubhub, and Groupon. 4 very nice companies, each with its own little area, not competing much, and also not worth much. And not changing the way people eat. The Chinese equivalent is Meifan. Meifan dared to change the way people eat. It asks the question, how do we get people to stop cooking? How do we get people to stop going to restaurants? By offering home food delivery within 30 minutes with hundreds of choices of cuisine, 30 minutes from the time you order, and delivered to your homes while it's still hot and charging only 70 cents, about 70 cents per delivery, right? If someone did that for America or any country, that would change the way people eat. But Silicon Valley entrepreneurs will say, well, that's really ugly thing. You gotta figure out how to manage large teams of unskilled delivery people, deal with their user interaction, and manage the courteousness of the well, actually, this is a picture. This is a picture of the Meituan delivery. You will see these individuals are generally not able to get a job as a Foxconn factory worker because only they can get you the 70 cents per order delivery. These mopeds are very cheap mopeds, run on batteries, and that's the only way you can get cheap delivery. The American, Uber Eats and a car and a driver and gas. By starting with that premise, you're using a Uber driver, expecting Uber pay, with a car, which has its own depreciation and costs, and with gasoline, which is expensive. There's no way that Grubhub or Uber Eats will ever get down to anything close to 70 cents. But doing the 70 cents is incredibly difficult because managing a workforce that's paid so low, that is so unskilled, and that is very hard to train. And once you train them, they become courteous, good service people. They move on, get a better job. And then you've got to deal with the turnover. You have to figure out how to replace batteries, how to deliver to your 30 minutes limitation, and how to have an AI algorithm. There's some AI, after all, connecting all this together. But once you're done, you control the market because it becomes an almost uncopyable product. Because once Meituan has the 600,000 people all trained with the machinery to replace them, even if the turnover is 40% per year, they can manage. They figured out how to manage. And with all the costs down to 70 cents, can you possibly start a competitor? Well, what would it take to start a competitor? Well, first you got to do everything Meituan has ever done. And you have to raise a couple $1 billion. And you have a near monopolist in the marketplace. And there's all these operational details. But Meituan's business model is much assured of continuity compared to a Grubhub, Groupon, OpenTable, or Yelp. And it's very difficult to do, but often valuable things are difficult to do. This lightweight, floating in the air kind of wonderful technology changed the world. I think the date of that is over. The date for that was the software days, the internet days, the no mobile days. We're building an app, very light, you can get the values. But nowadays, the next round of penetration is deeply into society, in the offline world, with every one of us face to face. And to do that, you got to deal with the ugly stuff, otherwise you can't succeed. So hopefully that's helped explain to you how the world has bifurcated. And in fact, I think it's a pity that Silicon Valley continues to look down on the Chinese model as copycat. And if that continues, China may very well surpass the US in building powerful, valuable businesses, as well as growing internationally. So in doing so, these hardworking Chinese entrepreneurs who are tenacious and start companies, find opportunities, iterate, are the perfect exemplaries of the Silicon Valley book, The Lean Startup. Actually, it's done perfectly in China. The Lean Startup is a 0 to 1, and then the model I described of building impregnable businesses is the 1 to 1 million. And that is how China created all that value. So back to AI, China has a lot more AI funding than the rest of the world, with about 48% compared to only 38% of the world's AI funding in the US. These are the 5 unicorns created by Sinovation Ventures. So one VC in China, we probably manage 1% of the China capital pool, and we've helped create 5 unicorns in AI worth $21 billion. I told you about Meitu, that's our investment. I told you about Zhihu, we invested in VIPKid. All of them use AI. I didn't include them. I didn't include applications of AI. I only include here pure AI companies. And this much value has been created. And I would challenge any VC in Silicon Valley to show this kind of results. And how long did it take for these companies to reach their status? Well, about 2 to 5 years. The oldest of the companies here is 5 years old. The youngest is 2 years old. So that is the speed in which AI is creating huge value. And that really signifies that AI is not in the stage many people think it's in. Many people read all the new AI applications like Cancer, Go, and natural language, and uses in loans and banks, internet, and Amazon, and so on and so forth. And we see all these wonderful AI applications and think we're now in the age of expecting singularity, right? Because all these things are coming, so much research, all this will create in singularity, then one day we'll wake up and we're controlled by